The fifth lesson of the first flight, the 100 dresses one. Easter was born on May 9, 1906 in USA. Originally a librarian, Easter's writing career began following a case of tuberculosis during the canvassing period. Easter began writing some of her childhood memories, which later turned into full-length children's books. Easter received the Certificate of Award for Outstanding Contribution to Children's Literature and was nominated for the Wilder Award. By the time of her death at the age of 82, Easter had written 19 children's books. That means he contributed a lot, sacrificed a lot in favor of the children. The message of acceptance and of not teasing someone for being different is a theme introduced in the chapter. The chapter also addresses the importance of respect for others by presenting the lessons learned by the characters in the story. First, by the characters' lack of respect for others, then later they begin to demonstrate respect for others when they realize that although Wanda is poor and polished, she is the main character, she is really no different from them. The issues of racism and classism are confronted in this chapter through Wanda's negative experiences in school. And because we learn that Wanda's whole family moves to the big city to avoid being ostracized, we can understand that the issues are much larger than just bullies at school. The story, The 100 Dresses, is about a Polish girl. Her name was Wanda Petronsky. Her family had immigrated to America. She studied in a school with other American students. She belonged to a very poor family. Daily she came to school in a faded blue dress. It was clean but not properly ironed. She used to sit in the corner of room number 13 in the last row. This was a corner where the rough boys who did not make good marks sat there. They made a lot of noise. They created a lot of disturbance in the classroom. There was the most noise of her feet when some fun occurred. Wanda did not sit there because she was rough and noisy. On the contrary, she was very quiet. But she came on foot from Boggins Heights area and brought a lot of dirt with her shoes. That means she was living in a very poor locality. She was an introvert and did not speak much in the class. No one had ever heard her laugh. Nobody really thought much about Wanda. Students thought of Wanda only outside the school hours. They waited for her while she was going to or coming from the home. They waited for her in order to have fun with her. That means they waited for making fun of her. Two girls of her class, Peggy and Maddie, often talked to her and made fun of her. Peggy was the most popular girl in the school. She was pretty and had curly hair. She belonged to a rich family. She had many pretty other clothes. Maddie was her closest friend. Peggy and Maggie were not bad girls, but they used to have some fun with Wanda Petronsky. The students in Wanda's class found her name funny. Wanda was always alone in her class. Wanda did not have any friends, but a lot of girls talked to her. They surrounded her in the schoolyard. Peggy made fun of Wanda and asked her how many dresses she had in her closet. Wanda replied that she had 100 dresses. These dresses were of different colors and designs. Then Peggy would ask her whether the dresses were of silk or velvet. Wanda would reply that she had dresses of velvet as well as silk. The girls would ask her how many pairs of shoes she had. At this, Wanda would tell them that she had 60 pairs of shoes. The girls would suppress their laugh when talking to her. But as soon as Wanda's back was turned, they would burst into peals of laughter. Peggy was rich, but she was not arrogant. She was not cruel. On the other hand, she saved younger girls from bullies. But she and other girls could not understand why Wanda told a lie about her dresses and shoes. But the girls only made fun of Wanda. They never made her cry. Maddie herself was a poor girl. She used to wear the clothes given by others. So she was sympathetic to Wanda. She and Peggy were fast friends. That is why she never said anything when Peggy made fun of Wanda. But she herself never laughed at Wanda. She did not like Peggy asking Wanda about the dresses. Whenever Peggy mocked Wanda, Maddie felt bad. Maddie did not like such type of behavior of Peggy before Wanda. She wished that Peggy would stop teasing Wanda Petronsky. Maddie decided to write a note to Peggy asking her to stop making fun of Wanda. But she could not muster the courage to do so. Wanda did not come to school on Monday, but nobody missed her. She did not come on Tuesday also, but when she missed the school on Wednesday also, Peggy and Maddie noted her absence. They wondered why she had not come to school. Maddie remembered Wanda talking about one of her dresses, which was pale blue with color trimmings. Then Maddie thought about the drawing and color contest in the school. The girls were to design dresses and the boys were to design motorboats. Maddie thought that Peggy would win the contest as she was very good at design. Next day it was drizzling. Peggy and Maddie hurried to school as Miss Mason would announce the results of the drawing contest. They did not wait for Wanda. When the girls reached their school, they were surprised. There were hundreds of designs of dresses displayed in the room. Then Miss Mason announced the name of the winners. Jack Bagel said won. For the boys, she said that all the 100 designs of dresses had been made by one girl and she had won the medal. Her name was Wanda Petronsky. but Wanda was absent. The children clapped their hands in joy. Maddie asked Peggy to look at the blue dress about which Wanda had told them earlier. They appreciated the drawings made by Wanda. So, in the absence of Wanda, the teacher announced the result, and the winner was Wanda Petronsky. Peggy and Maddie did not like heartily, but really the owner was Wanda Petronsky. She was a Polish girl. Some important questions from this lesson. First question is, where in the classroom does Wanda sit and why? Wanda used to sit on the next to the last seat in the last row in room 13. She sat there because her feet were normally caked with dry mud which were very dirty. So in order to avoid being laughed at her by her classmates, she sat there to hide her dirty feet. Next, where does Wanda live? What kind of place do you think it is? Wanda lived at Bogans Heights. It seems that it was a place far away from the school and also where there was a lot of dry mud, thereby indicating that it was not a very rich locality. That means the place where the poor people live. When and why do Peggy and Maddie notice Wanda's absence? Peggy and Maddie noticed Wanda's absence after 3 days on Wednesday because they wanted to be with her a lot of fun. They waited for her for a long time, but she did not turn up. What do you think to have fun with her means? Wanda was a quiet and shy girl who was ashamed of dust-laden feet. The girls used to make fun of her. This gave them a lot of pleasure. Therefore, they wanted to have fun with her. Next question. In what way was Wanda different from the other children? Wanda was different from other children. She did not have any friends. She came to school alone and went home alone. She always wore a faded blue dress that did not fit her properly. Unlike other children, she did not talk to anybody. Next, did Wanda have 100 dresses? Why do you think she said no? Wanda did not have 100 dresses because she was poor and wore the same faded dresses to school every day. She had an inferiority complex. In order to hide the complex and impress the other girls, she always said that she had 100 dresses. Why is Maddie embraced by the questions Peggy asked Wanda? Is she also like Wanda or is she different? Maddie was embraced by the questions Peggy asked Wanda because she was poor herself. She usually wore old clothes which were handed down by someone else. She did not feel sorry for Wanda. She was worried that perhaps later everyone would start teasing her too. She thought she was different from Wanda in the sense that she would never claim that she had 100 dresses. She was not as poor as Wanda. Yet she was afraid that the others might mock her too. Next question. Why did not Maddie ask Peggy to stop teasing Wanda? What was she afraid of? Maddie could not ask Peggy to stop teasing Wanda because she was her best friend and she had faith in Peggy that she would not do anything wrong. She was afraid of being laughed at for her poor dresses. Who did Maddie think about win the drawing contest? Why? Maddie thought that Peggy would win the contest because Peggy drew better than anyone else. She could copy a picture in a magazine. some film stars face so well that one could tell who it was. Who won the drawing contest? What had the winner drawn? Wanda had won the drawing contest. The winner of the drawing contest was appreciated by the judges and applauded by her fellow classmates. Second lesson of Hornbill: we are not afraid to die if we can all be all together. Very interesting story. This chapter signifies the meaning of its title. It is a fact that if people can together, they can face any kind of danger. It is very interesting to read how the family of the narrator duplicates the round the world voyage successfully. All the family members were in the boat in the sea. They faced the very difficult situation, but all the members, either son or daughter, faced the very difficult situation. Even if they help in the boat, in the sea, they did not create any type of problem, because they knew that their father was facing the difficult situation. His duty was to save the boat, otherwise the whole family members would be destroyed. So a 37-year-old businessman and his family had dreamed of sailing in the wake of the famous explorer Captain James Cook, and for the past 16 years the members of the family had spent all their leisure time honing their seafaring skills in British waters. The narrator, his wife Mary, son Jonathan, daughter Susan, set sail from Plymouth, England to copy the round the world voyage earlier made by Captain James Cook. So all the family members, the author decided to duplicate the journey earlier done by Captain James Cook. The first leg of 1,005 kilometers spanning over 3 years passed pleasantly from west coast of Africa to Cape Town. That means the first leg of journey, really there was no problem at all. They also hired 2 crewmen, American Larry Wiesel and Swiss Herb Sigler, to tackle the roughest sea, the southern Indian Ocean. So really, as a supporter, as a helper, as an expert, he hired the 2 persons, Larry Wiesel and Herb Sigler. Purpose is because they were the expert of the tackle the boat in the dangerous sea, roughest sea. On the second day of the Cape Town, they faced strong gales and the waves began to rise high. Their size up to 15 meters along them. They were at east of Cape Town on December 25, 3,500 kilometers away. Despite bad weather, they celebrated Christmas. New Year's Day saw no improvement in weather and it changed from bad to worse. At dawn on January 2, the waves were huge. As their ship rose to the top of each wave, they could see endless, enormous seas rolling towards them. They dropped the storm jeep to slow the boat down. Then they double-lashed everything and went through their life raft drill, put on oilskins and life jackets and waited for the worst. That means really they saw the problem, prepared for this facing the problem, used the equipments for saving the boat and the family members. The first indication of the coming disasters came at about 6 p.m. The wind dropped and the sky got dark. A huge wave like a cloud came over the ship. The roar became a thunder as it struck the ship. The deck shook. A torrent of sea water broke over the ship. The narrator's head smashed into the wheel. He accepted the approaching death and started losing consciousness. So really, the huge wave like a cloud came over the ship. It was great thunder. Situation became very rough and tough. A torrent of the sea water attacked on the ship, and the narrator's head also smashed onto the wheel. He realized that he would not survive. So, problem faced by him in the sea. The narrator's head rose out of the water. He saw wave walker capsizing. Wave walker is the sea. He realized that he was drowning, capsizing. Then a huge wave turned her upright. The narrator caught the guardrails. Waves tossed him. His ribs cracked and his mouth was full with blood. His ribs, that means the bones of the chest, also broke down. Mouth was full of blood and broken teeth. The water was everywhere, but he did not leave the wheel to investigate. Suddenly the front hatch was thrown open and Mary appeared. She cried that they were drowning. Larry and Herb were pumping like madmen. They were trying to save the life of the boat because they thought that if the boat was capsizing, no one would remain alive. So the broken things lay scattered here and there. The narrator swam to the children's cabin and asked if they were all right. They said they were, though she had a bump above her eyes. The narrator took a hammer, screws and canvas. They put canvas over the gaping holes. Some water was deflected. The debris had started to block the hand pumps. The electric pump had stopped working. The narrator worked with the help of another hand pump. They were not getting any replies to their mayday calls. That means emergency calls. On January 3rd, the water level had come under control. The boat's main reef frames and nearly broken down. They had survived for 15 hours since the waves hit. The narrator checked the charts and found that there were two small islands a few hundred kilometers to the east. The boat would not take them to Australia in that broken condition. One island was he ambassador. On January 4, after 36 hours of continuous pumping, they had drained out of water. Now they were heading for Lie Ambassador Island. They ate their first meal in almost 2 days with corned beef and cracker biscuits. But their despite was short-lived. At 4 p.m., black clouds began building up behind them. Within the hour, the wind was back to 14 knots and the seas were getting higher. The weather continued to deteriorate throughout the night, and by dawn on January 5th, their situation was again desperate, miserable. The narrator went to comfort the children. John asked if they were dying. He assured them that they would make out. But John added that they were not afraid of dying if they could be all together. The narrator took every care to protect the undamaged part of the hull with heavy nylon rope and plastic barrels of paraffin. Wave Walker rode out of the storm by morning of January 6. The narrator tried to get a reading on the 16th. He found that they were somewhere looking for a 65-kilometer wide island. When he was thinking, Sue came to him with a card she had made, which had caricatures of the narrator and made him laugh. She had written a message inside. It was, "How I love you both." The narrator checked and reached the calculations. They had lost their main compass. He had been using the spare one. At about 2 p.m., he went on the deck and asked Larry to steer a case of 185 degrees. He expected to see the island at about 5 p.m. When he went below with a heavy heart and dozed off till 6 p.m. Narrator cheered up by children. The narrator woke up. Jonathan came and asked if he could have a hug. He asked the reason, and Jonathan added that he was the best daddy and the best captain in the whole world. She added that he was as he had found the island. It was in front of them. He rushed on the deck and looked at the outline of Humberston. It was only a bleak piece of volcanic rock with little vegetation. It was the most beautiful island in the world. All the 28 inhabitants of the island welcomed and cheered them as they landed on the shore. With the land under his feet again, the narrator thought of his crewmen Harry and Herbie, who were optimistic under the stress and found with the odds successfully. He also thought of Mary, who fought with courage and did not lose hope. He also thought of Sue with a head injury and Jonathan, who was not afraid to die. So, after concluding or summarizing this story, we find that the son was really very bold and brave. The situation was very difficult. The ship was capsizing, but he did not create any type of fear or terror in the mind of his father. The child said that we are not afraid to die if we can all be together. So this line, the title of the story, indicated that how he was brave. That means the son of the narrator was very brave, and he did not face, he did not think, he did not realize what the condition was going to happen on the ship in the sea. So title is We Are Not Afraid to Die if we can all be together.